there, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making some meals that only take about 30 minutes to get on the table. I love 30-minute meals because you can have dinner done so quickly and still be able to enjoy the rest of the evening with your family. So let's go ahead and get started and I will show you what I made. First up today, we are going to be making these honey garlic pork chops with some wild rice and green beans. To begin, in this bowl I have 2 tablespoons of water and I'm adding in 3 tablespoons of honey, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, and then just a couple dashes of cayenne pepper. I'm going to just get this mixed together until the honey is no longer clumped up and then set it to the side for just a few minutes. Into my large cast iron skillet, I'm going to go ahead and heat up about 2 tablespoons of olive oil and a tablespoon of butter. And while that's getting nice and hot, I'm going to season up 5 pork chops with some salt, pepper, and garlic powder. I am not measuring these seasonings, I'm just making sure that they are covered on both sides with all 3 of the seasonings. Your pan should be nice and hot by now, so go ahead and add your pork chops in there and let those cook for 3 to 4 minutes until the edges start to turn a white color and the backside has browned up just like this. I'm flipping them over. I'm going to let them go for about 2 minutes. And then I'm going to be adding in about 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. Fresh garlic is much better, but I forgot to buy it, so I'm just using the garlic I had in my refrigerator already. So just go ahead and let that kind of brown up in there for about 30 seconds to a minute, continuing to let those pork chops cook. Now that garlic aroma is really strong, we're going to go ahead and add in the sauce that we made earlier. And I'm going to turn this down to about a medium heat now and just kind of let this sauce simmer in here with these pork chops until the pork chops are fully cooked and the sauce will thicken up. While the pork chops were finishing up and that sauce was continuing to thicken up as well, I went ahead and just scooped some of the sauce over top of the pork chops, that way they were covered. Here's what they looked like when they were all done. I added some parsley over the top just to finish it off, and like I said earlier, I did serve these with some wild rice and Italian style green beans. I absolutely love the flavor of these pork chops. I'm a huge garlic lover. I use garlic all the time in my meals. But adding the honey makes these pork chops a little bit sticky, but still that garlic flavor, it is so good. Up next, we are going to be making something that I have actually shared on my channel a couple times now. I am making my Parmesan crusted chicken, except today we are going to have it over salads. To begin with this one, I am just preheating my oven to 400 degrees, and then on my cutting board I have 2 chicken breasts that I sliced in half. I am going to be seasoning these chicken breasts with some salt, pepper, and garlic powder on both sides. There are no measurements, just make sure they're seasoned. Now moving on, I have 3 separate containers here. In the middle container, I am adding in 2 eggs. In the very first container, I am adding in a 1/2 cup of flour. And then in the last container, I am adding a 1/2 cup of grated Parmesan cheese, just like the spaghetti jar kind. And then I'm also adding a 1/2 cup of panko breadcrumbs with 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. I'm going to get that seasoning mixture mixed up there and also use that fork to beat my eggs in this bowl. Now to get this chicken covered, first I'm going to cover it in the flour on both sides. Shake off the excess flour and then transfer it into the eggs. Cover on both sides again. Make sure to shake off any extra egg and then take it over to the Parmesan and panko breadcrumb mixture. And you're going to want to use your fork to kind of pat those breadcrumbs on there. Once the chicken is covered on both sides and the edges are covered as well, go ahead and just set that aside until you are done with all your chicken. Here's what they'll look like once they are all covered nicely. Now we're going to go ahead over to my stovetop, and in my big cast iron skillet, once again, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil and 1 tablespoon of butter. Give that a minute just to get nice and hot, and then you can add your chicken in there. I'm going to let this chicken cook in here for only about 2 minutes. If you do choose to make this, make sure you are using a skillet that can go into the oven, because we will be transferring this in there in just a minute. But first we're going to let this chicken cook for about 2 minutes on one side. Make sure it's getting that nice golden color and then flip it over. I let this continue on the stovetop for about 1 minute and then I transferred it into the oven. Since this chicken is already partially cooked, this only needs to go in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. Here comes the chicken out of the oven, and oh my gosh, this chicken is just so good. I have made this so many times. I've shared it on my channel many times, and then I've just made it for us, not sharing it on my channel many times as well. But it is really good on these salads as well. It really bulks up your salad and makes it super filling. And as you can see, I had several other toppings here, and I did just top it all off with some ranch. Last but not least, we are making this cheesy chicken fajita bake. I went ahead and preheated my oven to 350 degrees. Now we're going to go ahead and make our seasoning mixture. So in this little bowl, I'm adding a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, a 1/4 teaspoon of paprika, and a 1/4 teaspoon of chili powder. I'm just going to get this mixed together and set it aside for right now. For this recipe, I'm only using half of a green bell pepper and half of a red bell pepper. If you want to, you could use both whole peppers, but I didn't want it to be too overwhelming in here, so we are only using half and half. And with the red onion, again, I didn't want it to be too overwhelming, so I just sliced up a couple slices of this red onion, and as you can see, it was plenty. Moving on to our chicken, I went ahead and cut 2 chicken breasts in half to make 4 pieces, and we're going to add those chicken breasts straight into our 9x13 casserole dish. You do not have to do this with the oil. I just did this because I ran out of nonstick spray, so I went ahead and just spread some of that olive oil around with the chicken breast. Once the chicken is in the pan, go ahead and sprinkle half of that seasoning mixture over your chicken. Next, go ahead and add the red pepper, green pepper, and the red onion. And then take the rest of that seasoning mixture and sprinkle it over top of the peppers. This baked in my oven for right around 15 to 20 minutes until the chicken was cooked all the way through and the peppers were tender. Over top of all this, I'm adding about 1 cup to 1.5 cups of Colby Jack cheese. And once this is covered, it's going back in the oven for 5 more minutes just to melt the cheese. Here's what it looked like when it was all done. It was so cheesy and delicious. And then this is what it looked like on my plate. I actually just made some Mexican style rice to go along with it, topped it with some sour cream, and dinner was done. Thank you so much for watching today. If you made it all the way to the end, don't forget to leave me a flower down in the comments, and I will see you guys back here on Wednesday with a new video. Bye!